Hi. In a previous video, I spoke about having developed an application called Move37 using Vibecoding tools like Cursor and Windsurf. Today, I wanted to give you a walkthrough of this application to show you how these are not just for toy projects and can actually be used for developing applications that will power your daily lives. The second reason I want to actually show you this is to demonstrate what, as a UX designer, what we are capable of today. So let's get started. My name is Sharan, this is RedXF. So as I mentioned earlier, I didn't want to build a toy application that looks good on demos, but actually build something that will be useful in my daily life. They say automate as many aspects of your daily life as can be automated. And so I began by looking at what it is that I find really hard to do, and that was social media management. I'm a part of a bunch of networks, and taking the content that I come up with, like it might just be a thought, it might be an article, whatever, and converting it into suitable formats that can be used on all these networks has been a tremendous challenge. So all of it begins by the single thought that you would have had. So I wanted to be able to record these thoughts very quickly. Just yesterday, I was thinking of how to succinctly say how to use AI within applications. So you just type it out and you post it just like that. You're not faced with like a Word document or anything that requires you to fill out a large document. So this is meant for snippets of thought. It might be related ideas. Some of these documents can just be about a single thought, but I also have other documents like this where I collect sayings that I've heard. You can also use it for designing videos like the one we're walking through right now. So I planned this video out in just bullet points, and I put it all down in a very simple way. So the application can extend to how you want to use it. It's like a note-taking tool at the very core. But there is the idea of the second brain concept. If you've heard of tools like Obsidian, that's what they're trying to do. So they find relationships. It's a manual way of doing it in Obsidian, where you're trying to relate multiple ideas together. But I thought if I get all these thoughts collected and stored in one place, I could build AI that would actually find these relationships between various thoughts at a later point. So this application is also meant for you to stay in the zone. So if you've got a series of thoughts, unrelated, related, doesn't matter. But if you're in the zone and you're just thinking about certain ideas, you want to just be able to put it down. And there are questions that you come up with. Let's say you had a quote that you heard somewhere, and you wanted to find out the author of that quote, which is a frequent problem for me. So here I can actually stay in the zone and just type in this question to the AI and have the AI go out and do its job while I continue doing my work, right? So again, the idea is to prevent distraction. You stay right here and you continue thinking about what you want to do. As you can see, the answer is Mark Weiser, and it's the absolute right answer. So these are some of the ways in which you can actually utilize AI within your existing application. But I was talking to you about taking this and using this in social media. So let me just demonstrate how that can actually be done next. So let's say I wanted to post this on social media right now. All I have to do is go over to the post section and click post. And because I want to be able to say this exactly as it is, I put this within quotes and I say this is useful for UX designers, and I think this is useful for anybody in technology. Now, this is all I have to do, and it'll employ AI and take this quote and turn it into what is suitable for into a form that is suitable for saying this on company accounts and for saying this on personal accounts. So you can see over here it modified the language, and let me give you an example. So on a personal account like this one on Mastodon, it says, I think predictable accuracy of code, and it speaks in the first person voice, right? But over here for RedXF, which is on LinkedIn, it modified the language slightly to say our team thinks, right? So it does these modifications very easily and in a way that is actually suitable for each of these networks. And that's one of the hardest tasks that, you can imagine how much time I would have spent in trying to just modify these minor things. Additionally, if I want to add an image to this, because images always get attention, all I have to do is come and click this button. I don't have to think about what the right image will be. AI takes over, it uses the language that I've that I wanted to post about, and it'll try to create an image that is actually suitable for that code. So let's see what it came up with. I'll just scroll to the top. It's got this person using a ruler on one hand and a paintbrush. I think it's fairly good, and I would actually like to leave it where it is. So let me see if I want to make any fixes, final fixes. I don't want to say our team things. I think I just want to have it say we think. So I'm just going to go there and change it manually, make these final fixes. We think the predictable use, yes. Never replace one with yeah. I think this is a better language, but this is also something that I can tweak in the code and make the prompt better so that it starts saying we think rather than our team thinks. These are the improvements that I can actually bring in. So yeah, there we are. And now if I want to publish this, all I have to do is come and press this button, and it's gonna go about and use APIs where possible and start posting those messages over there. But not all the channels that I have actually support API based publishing. So in those kind of cases like Farcaster, it's actually going to open up the UI and it's going to do the actions like as if I was manually doing it myself. You can see both my hands are here. It's going about actually typing in, getting the right image, upload it to the thing, and it'll post it. And once the job is done, it'll close the window and go on to the next one. So these are things that I think can be automated, and you can see it is perfectly suited for automation. What I don't want to do, what I clearly didn't want to do, is to take away the agency of the user. AI should always play the role of augmentation where possible. I'm just going to give it a few minutes for it to finish these tasks. It looks like it wasn't able to complete the job for the lens protocol, but we'll come back and make it run again. So I have a Substack account as well, and each of these accounts need to have different UI, and this can all be automated. There are these tools like the one from Perplexity, like Comet, that can be used for stuff like this. Okay, so the job is done. As you can see, this is a tremendous amount of time that can actually be saved. I wanted to state it again that there are tools like Perplexity which use LLMs to recognize the screen every time, but those I found are slower than if you were to code these interactions directly. And that kind of highlights where to use AI and where not to use AI. If we are dealing with interfaces that change on a constant basis, then yes, bring in the LLM and have it process the screen each time. But if that's not the case, you can actually code all the actions that need to be performed, and that turns out to be much faster. But I did speak to you about converting your thoughts into various formats. Let's go back to the ideas section. So this was the original document where I actually recorded all my thoughts for my previous video, where I had discussed the insights that I'd gained while developing the application Move 37. Let's say generate a 500 word article based on this for UX designers, right? I gave it a command like this, and then it went out and it actually generated an article similar to this. This was actually a great starting point. What it gave me was not perfect, but it took all my original thoughts and it gave it a narrative, and there was a start to a finish, there was a conclusion, there were all the points of consideration and such. So you just jump in there and you get in and you start editing. I want to have you notice that this is extremely unimaginable for me to have coded all by myself, but I literally had to ask Claude on Windsurf to make it be WYSIWYG, and it actually went about and figured out how to do it and execute it for me. So I imagine what this application should do and shouldn't do, and not worry about how am I going to actually do it, because a lot of times the trade-off is there. People look at the difficulty of doing something and give up rather than strive for the ideal state of an application. I didn't have to make that trade-off over here. So this is just to give you a quick example of what that looks like. The other place I used AI was to actually develop these audio tools. So if you go into settings, I'll show you what I mean. So you have a voice tab. So I can actually come in and actually set it up for it to use my own voice. If possible. So I'll give you an example of how that worked out, but I chose not to go that direction. But nonetheless, it is something that is actually possible. Not only did I write out this article, after I finalized the article, I actually clicked this button that generates the audio. So let's say in this particular document, so I can get in there and I can click this generate audio button, and it'll actually read out the entire article in voice form and store it, right? So I'll give you, let me go back to this and I'll play this as an example.
8 crucial insights from building an AI-infused app. Discover the critical lessons gained from developing a cutting-edge application in the evolving
Right, so I made it read out the whole thing, and it feels like anything that you would have seen on Medium or one of the other tools. And as you can see, this is the unpublished version of things. But as you can see, I can actually click this button. In this particular case, it's going to unpublish it first. But if I click this button, it's actually going to publish it as a blog for me. So thought to article, very quick. Again, from article to audio version, blog version, very quick. Furthermore, I have that button which you might have noticed earlier, which generates the podcast version. So if I click this button, it would have taken the article as it is. The reason I'm not clicking it right now is because it's an extremely intensive process. So I'm just going to show you the actual result of it on the actual article that I ended up publishing. So what it did was to take this article and make it a discussion between two people, right? It's actually very interesting, and I was able to actually prompt it in such a way that it would make it a back and forth, and there's one person initiates the topic and the other person asks questions for the first topic, and then the next one the other person initiates the topic and the first person goes back to asking questions. So it actually did it really well. So if you'd like to listen to this is what it sounds
Welcome to the RedXF podcast, where we discuss topics related to design and technology. I'm your host, Sharon, and I'm excited to be joined today by my co-host, Preethi. Today, we're going to talk about the crucial insights gained from building an AI-infused app. Preethi, have you ever wondered what it takes to develop a cutting-edge application in the evolving landscape of programming?
Absolutely, Sharon. I think it's fascinating to explore how AI can streamline creative workflows. And I've heard that you've recently embarked on a...
Yes. So as you can see, it feels quite natural. It did the introduction like you would do for a normal podcast, and it brought in the other person's voice where required. And this is actually something that you listen to. I'll explain how. And it was actually done very quickly. Now the production, back to the original idea I was talking about, it all started with a thought, but now I have an article, a blog, I have the audio reader, and I also have a podcast from it. But that's not, again, where we end. You see this button. If I click this button, just like the social media posts, it actually goes about publishing this to all the external platforms that I have. So you can see this in settings. If I go back to publishing, these are all the platforms that are currently supported. So it'll go into Spotify and publish the podcast, and if it'll go on, I'm yet to build this out, but the YouTube video, which is going to be linked to this, is going to be actually published as well. But currently on Substack, it'll also publish the article and the podcast. So again, huge amount of effort that is saved. And if I wanted to promote this article, I click this promote article button, and it'll take all the snippets from this. I'm not going to do it, but it's going to take all the snippets from this and compose posts from it. Actually, I have the old posts. Let me just show you that. Right. So these are all examples of posts that actually were generated for promoting that article. All right. I hope this walkthrough was useful to you. I wanted to demonstrate that AI coding tools like Windsurf and Cursor are not just useful for developing toy applications anymore. You can use this to develop really complex applications to drive really complex workflows on a daily basis. This whole thing took me about 4 months to develop, and about €100 spent overall. Is really not significant, and I think it took me 4 months because I was starting from scratch. Now that I have the hang of it, I've learned a lot about how to use it. I don't think it's going to take me that long in the future. In fact, adding new features to this application on a regular basis is so simple that The minute I run into a need for something, I can actually just ask and it's done. I mean, the distance between thought and action is reduced to such a degree that it's leaving you in the imagination space. Your imagination literally is what is limiting you today. So I implore all the designers to get in there and start using these tools and learning how to use them in your daily work, right? If you've got feedback for me, please let me know in the comments below. And I'm always reachable on all these social media platforms. All right, have a wonderful day. Take care.